This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Think about your most recent significant dream. You would probably agree that as you think about it, you are outside of it. It is as if you are looking at something, appreciating it, remembering it, considering what it might mean. Now, try something different. Move inside it. Go right back into the dream, re-enter the scene. Feel the difference? Here's the question. Is dream work more effective when done from the outside or the inside? The evolution in my own dreamworking style and method over the past few years has resulted in working more and more from the inside. Having now worked in this way with a few thousand dreams, I can say a few things with certainty. Dream work done from the inside is faster and simpler because it really has only one step. You re-enter your dream and try to get an embodied sense of what it wants. What is trying to happen? What do you want to do? What is it asking you for? Where is the energy trying to go? It is easier to facilitate others when working from the inside because there is no burden on the facilitator to have any sense of what the dream might mean. Two major fears that plague dream workers are greatly reduced: the fear of getting lost and the fear of being wrong. The facilitator's job is relatively simple: to invite the dreamer to re-enter the dream, then help them get a sense of what wants to happen. The goal is the same: to arrive at a resonant insight about how the dream connects to your life. When working from the inside, I have found these insights tend to arise more spontaneously and organically. They are felt more in the body, less worked out through thinking and associating. Inside dream work seems to work quite beautifully about 80% of the time in my experience. Sometimes it seems to get stalled because the dreamer cannot get an embodied feeling of what they want to do. At these times, I have found it very effective to use one of the backup techniques, most commonly the be the part technique, asking the dreamer to shift their identification from their own self to another dream figure. Working from the inside is more dynamic, change-oriented. You are already changing yourself as soon as you re-enter your dream and allow something new to happen. In traditional dream interpretation, understanding comes first and change may follow, or not. In inside dream work, change comes first and understanding follows. I find this much more rewarding. Working from the inside is more fun and less tiring. Your brain doesn't need to work nearly as hard. The energy is usually higher because you are working with something that is alive and changing. It's less like analysis and more like theater, writes Dr. Christopher Soden. Valeria interviews Dr. Christopher. He is a naturopath and a professional dream worker based in Southern Ontario, Canada. He does online dreamworking sessions with clients all around the world, helping them gain deeper insight into their dreams. Since 2003, Christopher has been training healthcare practitioners of all kinds to integrate Dreamwork into their practices. He is a member of the IASD, International Association for the Study of Dreams. He teaches dreamworking skills through a course of online training modules and has published 2 books, Dreamworking, How to Listen to the Inner Guidance of Your Dreams, 2017, and The Dreamworking Manual, A Guide to Using Dreams in Healthcare, 2013. To read more about Dr. Christopher and his work, please visit his website at christophersoten.com. Here is the interview with Dr. Christopher Soten.
In your own words, who is Christopher Soten?
Well, professionally speaking, I'm a dream worker, and that is a new term for some people. I guess not everyone knows what a dream worker is, but for me, I would define it as someone who can consistently help people get more out of their dream life. And whatever that takes, whether it's helping them remember their dreams, whether it's helping them re-enter their dreams or work with their dreams or respond to their dreams to make life changes, all of the above. That's a dream worker. And that has become my life's path and my life's work. And also in the last 5 years, or maybe even a bit more than that, training other people to be dream workers has become the main focus of my life's work so I guess I could say I'm a dream worker trainer as well, because I really feel the world is short on dream workers. It's lacking dream workers. It's for me is a very important social skill that we've somehow lost through the ages. That many people in the world's history have had a strong, vibrant, living tradition of dream working, but our culture, not so much these days. So I'm a dream worker who wants to help bring dream work back into the world.
It's a very interesting work. Before we talk about some of the topics in your book, and I have lots of questions for you here, your book is titled Dreamworking, How to Listen to the Inner Guidance of Your Dreams. So I have a few warm-up questions before that, as I mentioned off record. The first one is, what does it mean to be a human being, Christopher?
To be a human being? Well, great question. Well, maybe I could talk about part of it, which is that the human being is a creature that lives with a focus in the present, and we're very good at focusing our mind to accomplish things, but we actually can be open to much more information than we're getting through the narrow hyper focus we usually have. And I think is one of the fascinating things that's happening these days is that we're widening out, we're becoming aware of so many more realities and levels of reality, and we're becoming aware of the interconnectedness of everything. So I think this is, for humanity, is a wonderful development, and I hope we can continue to walk along this way. And dreaming is one of the things that, not the only thing, of course, but one of the things that connects us to everything. Because for me, one of the fascinating things about dreams is that you can dream about anything in the universe. Anything. There's nothing that you can't dream about. So that's wonderful. That's exciting to me, and it helps us realize our full humanity, or come closer to realizing our full humanity, because we have dreams that kind of push us towards the edge of our personal growth. And again, dream work, that's why the world needs more dream workers, because people need help with that. A lot of people just don't engage their dream life at all. So they lose this ability to become more and more fully human and more fully who they are and who they were meant to be. And their dream life is there trying to help them, but
Right.
they're not picking up their end of the bargain.
I'll ask you a question about dreams. What is another word for dream?
I don't know if I can get it into one word, but it's like um, live, spontaneous theater. For me, it's dreams are not. I used to think of dreams as messages, and a lot of people do. A dream is a message, but actually, it's more like a stage that's set in a theater with actors and a set and a director. It's like, because the message is not over. It's like you can walk back onto the stage and start the whole thing up again. That's the wonderful thing about dreams when you re-enter them. And I hope you're going to ask me about dream re-entry at some point. When you re-enter your dream while you're awake, so in your imagination, you're going back into your remembered dream, it's still there. It's still there, like a stage that is set, and it's waiting for you to come back onto it and start things up again. And that's what dream re-entry is all about.
I notice that I have dreams with the same location, the house that I grew up in. It keeps coming back with people that are in my life today. Most of us, you're right, we don't focus on our dreams. We don't try to understand them as often as we should, in a way. And I would like to understand more myself. So I'll be asking you all these questions. I don't think I have the re-entry.
Well, it's referred to at a few points in my book, but my book is not specifically about reentry. The dream reentry is what I'm doing in the last 3 years or 4 years since my book came out. So it's kind of the new chapter in my work. So maybe we'll have time to talk about that a bit too. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I found it to be not only the simplest, but the fastest and the most effective way to get good insights about what your dream is about.
Most of the knowledge of the information you speak of, it's actually experiential, right, Christopher?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, they have a thought in their mind about the dream work. When you talk about a dream, it's like a
Mhm.
Freudian analyst or a dream interpreter who's an expert who tells you
Yeah.
what your dream means. It's actually not like that at all. It's much more experiential. It is like walking onto the stage and starting up your dream again, and you're the director. You're not just a passive actor who's caught up in the play. You actually have some control, some power. You have some say in what's going to unfold, and it's completely experiential. It's you there having that experience, as opposed to two people sitting in chairs talking about what the dream means.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, from that perspective. So that's wonderful to know. What is life itself? What is life to you?
Life. Well, I mean, I I often no, I'm 65 now, so I'm getting on uh, in years. I still feel very young. I still actually feel like I'm somewhere in the middle of my life, which is very likely not true, but that's what I feel. But I do find that I'm thinking about death more. So as we approach death, uh, I think it makes us feel differently about our life. I mean, what is this amazing opportunity that we have? And does it end, or does it change into something else? Do we remember anything of this life after we die? I mean, I find myself thinking about these kinds of questions. You could perhaps call them existential questions more and more as I get older. So, but the end result for me is that I want to live this life as fully as I possibly can while I have it. I don't want to spend too much time worrying, and I don't want to become fearful about what comes after. I want to experience life while I can, and then hopefully as death approaches and is knocking right at the door, I'll be ready for that adventure too. And I think my dream life helps me with that, because when you're dreaming, your ego does die in a sense. It's an ego death. It loses control, and you go into another realm. And that also, of course, happens when you die. Your ego loses control. It has to let go, and you go into another realm. And that transition is, it's one of the most important things that we have to think about. And we don't think about it much. Maybe we should think about it more.
What would you say is the opposite of life?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's death, because we don't know enough about what happens in death, which is remarkable when you think about it. That probably we've been wondering about it for hundreds of thousands of years, and we really haven't got very far in figuring out what happens. So I don't think we can say it's death, because death might not be the opposite of life. So I would say the opposite of life would be not living your life. I mean, being in a state where you're not using your potential or your gifts. So I mean, that's a sad thing, but I think for me, as something that could guide you towards towards living the life that you want more, it would be just to say, okay, I don't want to be dead inside. I want to be alive inside. So what does that mean, and what does that take, and what should I do to help that happen?
It makes me think of happiness and joy and all these positive states of mind when you think about being alive, feeling alive. What do you think is the purpose of life, the human experience?
These are big questions coming. This is
Yes.
great. Yeah. I I think probably it is to help with the evolutionary process. I mean, I do think one thing we can say for sure is that evolution is going on many levels, not just biological, but mental, spiritual evolution is, and evolution of consciousness is happening. So I suspect that we all have a role in that, or we should have a role in that. And so one of the things we're being called on to do is to grow and change and evolve and move the whole story of humanity forward, not just as individuals, but as a collective that we are. And it's interesting that in dreams there are a lot of requests being made. I mean, if you think of it, if you change your dream question when you wake up in the morning from, oh, what did that mean, to, oh, what is that asking me for, then it shows you that you're being asked for something. You could say that whoever made your dream, I just call it the dream maker because that's an easy word for it. Whoever made your dream is not just trying to tell you a story or send you a message. Is actually asking you to respond in some way, to do something. And then if you look at it that way, then you could say, yeah, I'm part of something that's evolving, and I have to do my bit.
That's a powerful question. It's almost asking life itself, what do you want me to do now? What are you asking from me? That goes back to purpose in a way, right, Christopher? What is the purpose of my life at this moment? Yeah, wow, I love that. What is to be free? What is the meaning of freedom to you?
Well, for me, as a dream worker, which I suppose is a kind of psychotherapist or counselor, a lot of people come to me with their problems and their issues, and what strikes me is how unfree a lot of people are, and it's not because they're locked up, it's not because they're imprisoned or locked into anything, really.
Right.
It's because of mindsets that they can't change. Even though they wish they could change them, and they may even be quite conscious of them, they might be quite conscious that they're being limited by their own mindsets, but they still can't change them. So why is that? In a way, that lack of freedom is the $1 million question. It's like, why are we so unfree? Why do we find it so hard to really change ourselves when we know what we want to change into and we still can't? And this kind of stuckness or lack of freedom is really shows up in the dream life. And it shows up as dreams where you're stuck in something and it doesn't feel good, and it's going on, and it's usually very repetitive. It's repetitive both within the dream and in the fact that you've had that dream hundreds of times, and you're doing the same thing and you don't like it, but you can't stop doing it, and it goes on. That kind of dream is very common, and that's the human condition. We're stuck. We want to change. We could change, but for some reason, for some agonizing reason, we don't. So that I don't know why that is. That's a funny thing about human beings, but it certainly is. And if you actively do dream work, it really does help you get the change wheels going.
Right. It might be that it takes courage, doesn't it, to make any kind of change in a way. It
Yeah.
takes energy and courage.
Oh yeah, and commitment. Yeah,
Right.
right.
It's also mystery. We don't have an answer for why
Uh-huh.
certain people don't change, although they know so much.
Right.
Wonderful in its own right, I would say.
Yeah.
One more question for you. At this time, what do you think is the world's greatest need? And do you have a vision for a new reality?
Well, I mean, I think the greatest need in the world today is ecological, because we have to take care of our home. We've only got this one home planet to live on, as far as I know. I think it's likely. Um, and you know, things are really heating up. We have to do a better job. Everybody knows that. But we're really having trouble, shifting gears to looking after the world better. I think that the safe and respectful stewardship of the world and the ecology is probably the most important question on the table right now. And it is, again, since we're talking about dreams, it is reflected in people's dreams. I mean, all the natural disasters that are happening around the world these days, they certainly appear in people's dream life. And again, I think it's best to look at it not searching for meaning, but searching for what am I being asked to do, because it's just a more powerful and dynamic posture to put yourself in. So so I have a dream about a burning forest. What does my dream maker want me to do? I mean, is this burning forest purely metaphorical or symbolic, or is it actually, is there an element of it where the earth herself is communicating to me that I need to be more active? So I think everyone should open up the way they relate to their dream life to say, yeah, most of my dreams seem to be about me individually, my life and my issues. Maybe that's true. But also there's a way in which the dreams could be communicating from a much larger perspective, from a planetary or a collective perspective, and to be open to looking at them that way as well.
dreams are asking us to do something, not just at the individual level, but also at the collective level.
Yes, and I think more so recently because just because of what's happening in the world these days, there are more collective dreams happening. And of course, you if you change your paradigm so that you're more open to receiving collective dreams and collective communications, then of course you will have them. It's you will get what you ask for.
You have a whole section about asking questions and then the type of questions. That's fascinating because I love questions. What is love to you, Christopher? How do you define love?
Well, it comes back to me to the connection thing. It's like um, it's the experience of feeling emotionally connected to somebody or something else, and it's not just about you and your little world and your little concerns, but oh, there's another person there, or there's an animal there, or a tree there, or I love that. No, it's I am actually in the same life and the same world as this other being, and I so appreciate that. To me, love is it. Of course, can have many forms and many objects, but it always has that quality of connectedness.
What is your understanding and idea of peace?
Well, yeah, what a question for today when there's so much conflict raging
Right.
everywhere, and and it's so hard not to get caught up on it. I mean, I'm really careful not to tune into the news too much these days
Right.
because it puts me in a conflicted, very uncomfortable, very disturbed state. I mean, I want to know what's going on in the world. I want to stay informed. I don't want to have my head in a paper bag, but I don't want to feel like that. There's so much conflict. And then, you turn off your screen and you go out for a walk and the peace is also there. I'm looking out the window. I can see the geese are out on the grass. I mean, they're in a state of peace. They they're not watching CNN and getting all worked up about whatever all the things that are going on in the world. That so the peace is there. It's a state of being fully present, embodied, and conscious, and just where you are, and having that experience, and not being conflicted or divided or pulled out of it by anything. And it should be easy to do, but it isn't a lot of.
If there's peace, it has to start within all of us, right?
Yeah.
So, one more question. What, where, and who is God to you?
Well, for me, God is a nature God. It exists in everything. I mean, nature in the widest sense. Every bit of creation to me has divine energy, and I see this in my dreams. I mean, I've had a number of dreams in my life which are just infused with God energy. I mean, it's not like I'm seeing a classical picture of God up in the sky or anything, but it's just, wow, it's everything is so unquestionably relevant and important and meaningful. That is the experience of God to me. And sometimes it just happens. You're just walking along, and all of a sudden you feel, wow, everything is so infused with meaning and beauty. And to me, that's a divine experience, and it can literally happen anytime. I wish it would happen a bit more, but it can happen to everybody and in the most unexpected ways. So it doesn't, for me, need to be mediated by a religious system or a religious structure, although it could be. But it's just a matter of being present in the world and open to all the kinds of experiences that you could have. Yeah.
Let's talk about your work. How did you become a writer? And what was the inspiration and intention of writing your book, Dreamworking?
Well, the intention and inspiration has to do with what we were talking about at the beginning. What that that dream work is in danger of becoming a vanishing art, and I don't want it to vanish from our culture. Um, I don't think it will. I don't think it can, because everybody dreams every night, and everyone is interested in dreams. I think I've never talked to anyone who's, maybe they're lying. I don't know, but everyone says they're fascinated by their dreams, and yet very few people are doing what I would call, active dream work, where they're consistently, helping other people really get into their dreams and get more out of the experience, more insight and more understanding. Uh, so I wrote the book because uh, it to reach more people around the world, because I teach dream working to people here in the Toronto area, but it's a small group, it's a small audience, and I feel it should be happening on a much bigger scale than it is. And I really think it should be, because to me it's a fundamental thing. It's a fundamental human thing that we dream, and we are being communicated with every night, literally in our dreams. And to let that communication go unheard and unused is, to me, it's a great pity, and it should not be that way. So that was my main motivation, to reach out to the people in the world who possibly could become dream workers. They may not know it yet. They may not even have heard of the term or have thought about that at all, but they could be, because they just need to be introduced to the idea.
Let me get from the very beginning. Dreams. What are dreams exactly? And what is the source of our dreams?
Well, I personally, I do think that the vast majority of our dream material comes from within us. We could say from our own dreaming mind, or from our mind while we are asleep. Um, and I call this the dream maker. I mean, you can call it really whatever you want. The unconscious is a little too wide open, because the unconscious is really the sum total, everything that's not conscious. So that's huge. But I think there's something in the human being that while they're asleep, they go into a state where their mind can generate images, sounds, thoughts, memories, smells, reflections, experiences, and it can do that, and it does that every night. And sometimes it's like a gigantic movie studio where a director appears, and he organizes this whole vast experience into a story, and then you get a really good dream. A lot of dreaming, I think, is kind of random and somewhat chaotic, and not particularly worth working on or remembering, just like a lot of our thoughts. Like a lot of our thoughts are just, they're not really worth remembering. And that's why we don't remember 99.9% of what we've thought in our lives, and nor should we, because it would be impossible to. So, but every once in a while, we have an experience which is very special, and we should treat it as a special communication, both awake and asleep. So I think, it's a largely internal function that we're all capable of, but it connects to everything. It can connect us to the entire universe, which is the amazing thing. So I think of a dream as the product of the gigantic movie studio of the sleeping mind, and the dramas that it can come up with. And then the trick is to wake up, remember it, kind of lock it into your long-term memory, which is very hard for some people, and then to actually put yourself in a position where you can work on it a bit. Say, okay, what's this dream asking me for?
I love the question. Yeah, I have to say it again. What is this asking me? How wonderful. I love the question. So, how did you discover yourself to be a dream worker? What was the experience that made you realize that?
Well, it was back in the mid 1980s when I was a student at the Naturopathic College in Toronto, in Canada. And um, I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but I found that I became the person that everyone talked to about dreams. So it kind of happened to me. And they would talk about their own dreams. And also when they started having their patients in the clinic, and their patients might report a troubling dream, then and they didn't really know what to do with it, then they would bring that to me. And so I became uh, that person. and, and and that happened fairly early on in my career. In fact, while I was still a student, and I began to notice it. I mean, because it was happening quite a lot. I said, why is this happening to me? Why am I becoming the dream person? And and but I decided to go with it. And then became very interested in the Jungian model. And I immersed myself in Jungian dream work. And I found that very rich and exciting for many years. And then right around that time, I had a remarkable dream, which I believe was a dream which announced to me my calling. Because when I woke up from it, I knew without a doubt that I was a dream worker, and that would be my career. Uh, and that in that dream, I was walking along a path with a companion who was half duck and half dog. I speak about this dream in my book, and we there's a big there's a hill on the left and a lake on the right, and I see three wolves approaching, and they go into the water, and I go into the water, and I'm starting to feel a bit frightened, but then I remember somehow the thought comes to me that you should not run away from such creatures. You should face them, and then all will be well. So I swam right towards the first wolf, and he swam at me, and he kind of went right into me. And then the second wolf, and then the third wolf. And when the third wolf and I came together, everything kind of swooped up into the air in this brilliant column of light. And then I woke up, and it was in one of those amazing dreams that, shamans often speak about. You have a special dream, and then you know what you're going to be in the community. Like you know what your job is, what your role is. And so I felt that was that kind of dream for me, and that I would be someone who worked with dreams, and I would help people, receive the insights from their dream life.
Oh, what a wonderful story. I love the number three, three wolves. That's very symbolic. So, are dreams connected to imagination?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I think, this gigantic movie studio idea, that's like a generator of imaginal, um, not only visual material, but it's like your imagination can generate anything. And really, just like your dream maker can generate anything. So I actually think they're facets of the same thing. And that's why re-entry dream work works so well, is because you're using the same movie studio to generate and continue the dream and dream it forward. The only difference is that you're doing it while you're awake now. You had the original dream while you're asleep and you remembered it, but now you're going back onto the stage and you're awake and you're fully aware of what you're doing. So you really are the director now. You're not just an actor swept up in the story. And you are still using the faculty of imagination, which can visualize, which can create, which can imagine things happening. So I use the word imaginal work because you are using your imagination, right? And I think it's the same thing that created the dream in the first place. And that's why it works so well to dream the dream forward later while you're awake.
What is the history of dreams as a healing tool in ancient times?
Oh, well, I think it's a very rich history, and it probably started very, very early. I would imagine. I mean, it's easy for me to imagine, people waking up in early human society. They get up, they sit around the fire, they're talking, they just came out of a dream, they share the dream with their family and community. And that is just a natural practice that happens, probably almost every morning. I suspect that that's where we came from. We come from a tradition of sharing dreams like that, and especially in the winter, when it's dark a lot of the time, and you're sleeping a lot of the time, and you're dreaming a lot of the time, and there's not a lot to do. I think there was a lot of dream sharing going on in early human history. And then within the community, I would suspect that certain people would be chosen, and I probably would have been one of those people, would be chosen to go to, they'd be the ones that you go to if you had a particularly important dream, or a scary dream, or a troubling dream, or mysterious dream that you couldn't figure out. You'd go to this person in the community, and they'd be the dream shaman or the dream worker. And then they would be able to help you with it. So I think that tradition has also probably been around for a long time. I'm a little worried about where it is today in
Yeah.
Western culture. So we got to get it back.
What is the method? I know you have a theory in your book, Dreamworking Theory and Method. So if it's somebody like me, if I want to try it, can I do it by myself? Go through the whole process?
Yes, you totally can do it yourself. And the method I'm going to talk about is the re-entry method, because I think it's not only the easiest now, but also the best. So it's what you do is, if you have a well-remembered dream, you usually will find that the problem with a lot of dreams is that they happen to you. Like you're just reacting. And so the change that you're going to make is that you're going to become more proactive and more conscious and more aware. That's the change that you're going to make. You're going to go back into the same dream that you just had, you just remembered, but now you're conscious, and that means you can also change it if you want. You don't have to change it. You can go back into it just to gather more information, or to have more of the beautiful experience if it was a beautiful dream. But you can also change it, because in my experience, roughly 75% of dreams have negative feeling content. Like there's something you probably would want to change. There's something incomplete or something frightening or something nasty, something that you feel bad about or you wish you could have done. So guess what? You can do it. You can change it. So you go back into it. You make yourself conscious, aware, proactive, and empowered because you weren't that 9 times out of 10 in the original dream. But you make yourself feel that and you can bring whatever you want in to help you. If you need help, if you need an ally or a friend or a support standing beside you, then you imagine that happening until you feel ready to face with full awareness and fully embodied presence, whatever the situation is, even if it's a terrifying, horrific nightmare, you're going to be able to face it because you've changed the way you feel. And then once you figured out how you want to change it, you go ahead and imagine that change happening. So that now we're actually changing the dream. We're dreaming the dream forward. This was not in the original dream, but now it's in the new dream that started from the place of the old dream, but now it's changing.
Do we need to meditate before this? Because it seems like it takes a lot of concentration.
Some people like to do something to kind of shift gears out of their, normal waking state, and it depends when you do it. For me, the best time is in the early morning. I'm lying there, I'm still in bed, I've woken up, I'm close to the dream world, and this is my best time to work on dreams. I guess that wouldn't work for everybody. Some people do it just before they go to sleep too. But I find it works best in the early morning, but really it could be any time. And you just, and you know what? It's pretty fast. You could do it a really good job of dream reentry in 3 or 4 minutes. So it's not like you need to block off an hour or anything. You don't. You can do it quite quickly.
We remember the dream much more accurately in the morning when we just wake up. That makes sense to me. It will be the best time. Do we ask the question? Do we ask that question before we do the re-entering process method?
Yeah, it becomes a whole habit of mind. It becomes automatic after a while. It's like you're always holding that question. But it does take a little bit of time to shift your question from what does it mean, which is
Yeah,
for most
true.
people,
So true.
for most people, that's where they automatically go. They wake up from a dream and they go, oh, wow, what did that mean? So it takes a while to shift yourself out of that so that you're not doing that. Because the trouble with that, as fascinating as it may be, is that it pulls you out of the dream. You can't really think about what something means unless you're out of it, looking at it, so your perspective is already outside. You've already to some degree objectified it, and you're not in it. So I say, you know what, don't worry about what it means, that'll come later, because I'm totally into getting the meaning. For sure, I love meaning. It's not that I'm against meaning, I just want the meaning to come to me, rather than me demanding it, like, what do you mean? Like, explain yourself. So don't put yourself in that posture. Just go back into the dream. And then your guiding question is, what do I want? What do I want to happen ideally in this situation? Let's take the classic example of someone's chasing you down a street. This is one of the world's most common dreams. And it can be very repetitive, and it's terrifying, and you're always running away. But wait a minute, if you re-enter that dream and you make yourself conscious and empowered, you're not going to want to keep running away. You're you're going to want to turn around and face that, whoever that is, and find out what the hell is going on. Who are you? Why are you chasing me? What do you want? See, you can't do that unless you change the way you feel, unless you change the dream from something that happens to you to something that you're an active participant in. So that's always the first step, is to change the way you feel in the dreamscape. And then you can decide what you want to do.
Yeah, it's not just happening to you, but you can actually try to understand what's happening. That applies to life itself directly.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. There's the word direct, like director, like the director. Be the director. You could say be the director of your life. Like be more active in directing your life. And you can also say that about your dream life. Like your nightmares don't have to keep happening to you over and over again, which is the sad truth for many people. Believe me, I've talked to people they've had terrifying repeating nightmare for decades, and they never were able to do anything about it. Isn't that sad? And same in waking life, like a terrible situation that keeps happening over and over again, and you want to just say, no, wait, take control of this. Like, don't let this keep happening to you.
At the time in my life where I had so many issues, I was having this repetitive nightmare. And then when I faced that nightmare, I just asked the question, who are you and what you want? Everything changed. Then my life changed. Everything changed. It seems to me like the work that you're doing, the dream working, is a training ground for self-empowerment.
Both on a large scale and on a small scale, you have to empower yourself before you can do this work. Because if you're frightened and running and hiding, which is what most people are doing in their frightening dreams, you can't do any good work. You can't even make a good decision about what would be a good thing to do, right? You're just running for your life. So that's why I say, the first thing you have to do is empower yourself and change that. Whatever it takes to change that, you have to do that first, because people, like, if someone's in a PTSD state, a traumatized state, or a dissociated state, you can't do any good work. There's no point. You'll just re-traumatize them if you take them back into a scary dream. So the first thing you have to do is make them feel safe, fully present in their body, and empowered and very aware of what's going on. Once you achieve that, then the world is open for you. You can do whatever you want.
I know you mentioned your book is not a dream dictionary, and it's not. So is there any value, let's say? Are they helpful in any way?
I think the value of them is that they can make you think about the amazing richness and diversity of a symbol. Let's say you have a frightening dream of a big snake and you're running away from it. So the first thing you have to do is go back, make yourself calm, empowered, and present and conscious. And then you can find out what this snake is by actually going up to it and looking it right in the eye and talking to it or meeting it. That's how you're going to know what your snake is. And a dream dictionary won't help you do that, because that's not your snake. It's not you. It's not this dream. It's generalizations, which can be fascinating, but really a snake could mean any one of a million things. So you really can't get it down to one thing in a book.
And then when you talk about inner guide, I love that too. Is the inner guide that you speak of connected to intuition?
Yeah, not only intuition, but certainly that's one of the things. I mean, I just believe that we have an inner guide. I always have. I mean, to me, that totally makes sense. And that I wonder if you interview 10 people on it and say, do you think we all human beings have an inner guide function? I don't know what they'd say, but to me, yes, of course. We have a part of us that knows more than we do. You know, it knows more than our normal ego consciousness does. It's wiser, it's more experienced, it has a bigger vision. So therefore, it would be capable of guiding us. And how would that guidance happen? Many ways, but one of the ways would be through your dream life. And yes, and dreaming is one of the ways to really tune that in. So I think that's another reason for people to cultivate some deeper relationship with their dream life is to receive that guiding function.
You're using the method of dreams to access intuition. That's a very interesting way of doing that. So, when you talk about re entering the dream, is that sort of similar to lucid dreams?
Oh yeah, it is. In fact, one way to explain it to people would be to say, imagine that you're fully lucid and you're back in your dream. Uh, then what might you want to do? And people who've had lucid dreams can relate to that. And then I say, well, you can do that anytime you want. You just do it while you're awake. And that's dream reentry. So dream reentry and lucid dreaming are very, very similar. It, the only difference is one you do while you're awake and one happens while you're asleep. And the thing about lucid dreaming is, you know, most people are not very good at it, like
Mhm.
me. I about once or twice a month, I have sometimes the beginning of a lucid dream, but I can't usually sustain it for very long. But I lose the lucidity after a while. And so then I go back into normal dreaming. And it's a practice. It takes practice to be a good lucid dreamer. And there are people who are really good at it. But not everyone has that ability at their fingertips. But everyone does have the ability to re-enter their dreams. And you can pretty much do the same thing. Just imagine, okay, I'm back in my dream. I'm not dreaming, but I'm awake, but I'm still back in the same dream. Now, what do I want to do?
Mm. So that's easier to access, right, that way. That also reminded all this, our conversation and the work you do, it reminds me of that movie, Inception, I think the title is. So, does it have anything to do in a way with that idea that we can go back and recreate, insert ideas and all that?
Right, right. But they were in that movie. I don't remember it all that well. I saw it when it first came out, but they were trying to use the lucid dreaming ability for very specific purposes, or even maybe criminal purposes. I mean, but the thing is, you can use it for anything. I say literally. I mean, so use it. I mean, that's the thing. Most people, again, will not ever go back into a dream unless they're, encouraged or told that they can do that. And so there's this kind of massive underused ability that we all have that I just wish more people would tune into it and have the experience. And they'd go back into a dream and they'd say, okay, in this situation, ideally, what would I like to be able to do? And then they could imagine doing that.
Thank you for what you do. And I have a few more questions for you. Before I do that, would you like to add anything or even read a passage in your book?
I just would like to talk a little bit more about this whole a question of changing your state. Uh, and maybe I could just do a simple analogy with, say you're in an argument with somebody and you're awake. This is just an experience that you're happening, and you feel like, oh no, we're having this argument again. But then all of a sudden you catch yourself and you kind of access your best self. We've all had that experience. It's almost like you rise above the way you're caught in the same old argument, and all of a sudden your perspective is bigger and you're more aware and more conscious. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You it's like a version of accessing your best self, only you're doing it in your dreamscape, in dream reentry. And when you do that, it just changes everything. So it really does go to show you how much power we have, but through being able to change our inner state, because it really changes the way you feel about the entire situation. And so that is the really, maybe that's a better way to put it for a lot of people, because they'll be able to relate to it more, is accessing your best self. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I'm getting caught up in the same old problem again. No, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to access my best, most conscious self. Whoa. And then everything feels different. Okay, that is a wonderful tool, awake or asleep, that we can all use, right?
Do you believe in unconditional self-love?
Well, as an ideal, yes, I do. I think, for me, it's a bit paradoxical, because you got to be a bit tough on yourself. I believe you got to make demands on yourself too. You got to push yourself a little bit, because we so easily lapse back into kind of being lazy and routine. So I think it's okay to be on your own case, but that doesn't mean you're not loving yourself. I think you can it's a kind of tough love, I guess. You can be on your case and still love yourself. And that, to me, is the ideal state. You're asking a lot of yourself, but you also love yourself. That's hard to get both of those, isn't it? But
Yeah.
but that would be the ideal that I'm trying to aim for.
Beautiful combination of the doing and being. They call the divine masculine and divine feminine too,
Yeah.
coming together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
If you knew you would die soon, meaning losing the body, would you make any change in your life or do anything differently?
I don't think so. I'm pretty happy with the way my life is now. I think I would just want to continue doing it right up till the end. There would be, I'd want to have conversations with some people and make sure that happened before the end. Yes, but I wouldn't really want to make any big changes. I'd want to be in the place that I am, and I'd probably want to continue doing the work that I do right up until the end, because I love it. I don't want to retire. I can't even imagine retirement. Why would you want that?
Do you believe in life after death?
I I hope there's something after death. I mean, I I I suspect there probably is. Just, you know, it's hard, because I have never had a near death experience myself. I've read a lot about them, and I've read a lot about the Tibetan Buddhist tradition of preparing for death and preparing for the Bardo state and the great transitions. And using, by the way, they cultivate lucid dreaming for that purpose. I mean, that's the main purpose there. I believe that they're so interested in lucid dreaming is that it helps you prepare for the great transition of death. Because if you can be wandering in a strange place without fear, with awareness and consciousness, in a dream, then that's training you to be able to do that for whatever it happens when we die. I mean, clearly it's a huge transition, but it need not be a terrifying one. When your ego starts to fall away, that could be okay. And I hope I feel that as it starts to happen to me.
Yeah, that makes sense that certain traditions, like spiritual traditions, like Tibetan Buddhism, they would practice dying before they die. So one more question. What are 3 things about life you know for sure as of now?
One thing I know for sure is that there's something much bigger than our ego consciousness. And that comes back to the guide function that we were talking about. I think we're like a little spot on an island with light, and we can see around us, but underneath us is this island, and underneath that is an ocean, and underneath that is a world, and we are all those things, and sometimes we can tap into being connected to all those greater things. And so I'm sure that there's something much greater going on than we're usually aware of. And it's, I love the experiences, whether dreaming or awake, where suddenly that bigger thing comes through, and we're suffused with this sense of being connected to something much bigger than ourselves. So I am sure of that. I'm sure that the world would be better if professional dreamworking was, was a profession that you could actually go into, and it's your kids would be saying, I want to be a dream worker when I grow up. I want to go to dreamworking school and study. I think that would be so great, and I'm sure it would be a very healthy thing for Western society to have that in place. And okay, so that's number 2. And number 3, I'm sure that everyone can do this thing that we're talking about, where you stop yourself in your tracks, whether you're awake or asleep, and you say, wait a minute, I don't want to keep running away from this, or I don't want to keep suffering this over and over again. I'm going to change the way I feel so that it can turn out differently. Whatever we want to call that, I don't think it really has a name yet, but it's a skill that we could all practice and we can all have. And we, as a group, the human race, would be so much better off if we were better at doing that.
Thank you so much for your profound wisdom and your presence, your genuine presence, Christopher. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for having me on the show. It was wonderful talking with you today.
Where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Well, I have one of those websites where I think everything is on it. So just go to www.christophersoughton.com and you'll see everything's there, including the course that I'm really working on now, which is to train more dream workers. So it's essentially a dream worker training course that you can do online at your own speed and your own time, and wherever you are in the world. So I'm working with people all over the place. It's quite exciting to just to help them develop the skills and the confidence to work with other people's dreams.
Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye for now, Christopher. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Dr. Christopher Soughton, please visit his website, christophersoughton.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. I want to thank the Patreon members, Lawrence McGrath, Mark Basden, Terry Clayton, and Aidan Bickrock. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.